Japanese Americans' importance in World War II. What if your country was attacked and you looked just like the enemy? That happened to Japanese Americans during World War II. The sneak attack on Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu in Hawaii on December 7, 1941, by the Japanese Navy, ushered the United States in World War II.
Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Executive Order 9066, signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, removed 120,000 Japanese Americans from West Coast states, placing them in internment camps spread over 10 sites across the country. The War Department needed more men to be in the armed forces. They sent a loyalty questionnaire to the internment camps, asking many questions. But the most controversial questions of number 27, are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty wherever ordered? And number 28, will you swear unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and faithfully defend the United States from any attack by foreign or domestic forces, and forswear any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese Emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization? Divided the internment camps. Prior to World War II, many Japanese Americans were serving in various divisions in the U.S. Armed Forces. As soon as the U.S. entered the war, all the Japanese American military servicemen were transferred to the new 100th Infantry Battalion. They were sent over to Europe in 1943, and they helped liberate parts of Italy in just their first few months of fighting. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team were made up of mostly men who answered yes, yes on the loyalty questionnaire from the internment camps, and Japanese American men that volunteered from Hawaii. After the battalion had served several months in Europe, the 100th was folded into their unit, but retained the 100th as their combat designation because of all they had done prior to the 442nd coming to Europe. The 442nd was tasked in liberating the lost battalion, 275 men of the 141st Battalion that had been cut off from Allied forces and surrounded by the Germans in Vosges Mountains. 2 divisions had already tried to rescue them, but had failed. The 442nd were able to save the 141st after 5 days of intense fighting. 211 men were saved, but at the cost of several hundred dead or wounded. The Gothic Line was a heavily fortified by the Germans in northern Italy that stemmed the Allied forces for a year and a half. The 442nd was ordered to lead a break of the line. They stealthily climbed the mountain at night and were able to capture many German machine gun posts in one day, what the Allied forces could not do in over a year. Today, the 442nd is remembered as the most decorated unit for its size and length of service in the history of the U.S. military. The unit, totaling about 18,000 men, received over 4,000 Purple Hearts, 4,000 Bronze Stars, 588 Silver Star Medals, 21 Congressional Medals of Honor, 29 Distinguished Service Crosses, and 7 Presidential Unit Citations. The 100th, before being merged with the 442nd, received 3 Presidential Unit Citations, 1,703 Purple Hearts, 1 Congressional Medal of Honor, 24 Distinguished Service Crosses, 147 Silver Stars, 238 Bronze Stars for Valor, and 2,173 Bronze Stars for Meritorious Service. In addition to the infantry, Japanese Americans played an important role for the U.S. war efforts as linguists. Japanese Americans that had received a formal education in Japan, Kibe, were recruited by the military because they were fluent in the Japanese language and understood Japanese culture. Linguists were attached to the infantry units and deployed throughout the Pacific Theater. Thomas Sakamoto was one of the most highly decorated linguists from World War II. After graduating from the Military Intelligence Service Language School, Sakamoto spent 1 year teaching other recruits at the school. He was later deployed to the Pacific as the head of a 10-man Nisei team of linguists attached to the 1st Cavalry Division. Immediately upon landing in the Pacific, Sakamoto and his team, along with the 1st Cavalry Division, entered the battle at the Admiralty Islands. His team was responsible for translating Japanese intelligence that provided crucial details about the enemy plans, which helped the 1st Cavalry Division during the battle and saved many Americans' lives. At the end of the war, Sakamoto was one of only 3 Japanese Americans that were on board the USS Missouri to witness the official surrender of Japan. For his service, Sakamoto was awarded the Army Commendation Medal 4 times, Bronze Star 2 times, and the Legion of Merit. Sakamoto continued to serve in the U.S. Army after the war and even served as an interpreter for President Eisenhower during his visit to Okinawa in 1961. Back on the home front, the 1,399th Engineer Construction Battalion was an all-Japanese American unit based on Oahu. They built various structures to help protect Hawaii from another Japanese attack. They built a 1 million-gallon water tank, which is still used today by the Honolulu Water Board. They were awarded the Meritorious Service Award in October of 1945. Throughout World War II, Japanese Americans heard the call to action, whether they were being asked by the War Department or they simply acted on their own to enlist because they wanted to help defend the United States. Many factors, such as their Japanese ancestry and the forced relocation of the loved ones, would have led people to believe that Japanese Americans wouldn't take up arms against Japan. Irrespective of those obstacles of racism and xenophobia, many Japanese Americans were driven to demonstrate their loyalty to the United States and did not respond to the call. In fact, Japanese Americans that fought on the side of the United States performed with honor and bravery, both on the battlefield and at home. Consequently, their efforts were vital to the success of the U.S. military not only in Europe against Italy and Germany, but also in the Pacific against Japan during World War II.
142nd Regimental Combat Team was the only unit in U.S. history to be greeted by the President.
You fought not only the enemy, but you fought prejudice, and you've won.